Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alamin. Wassalatu wassalamu ala ashrafil anbiya'i wal mursalin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Very good morning to all who are present here this morning. And thank you very much for your interest in this lecture. The lecture under the program monthly lecture on Malay Manuscript organized by ISTEC with the cooperation of Malaysian Historical Society and the IIAUM Library. As in an introduction, I would like to say that the event today is the 17th lecture in the series. And the first lecture was delivered by Prof. Kawashima Midori of Sophia University, Tokyo, at the end of January 2022 on Malay and related manuscript in Mindanao, the Philippines. For your information, the lecture today has been purposely planned to be in English because we realized that some of the reason given to us in the past that by the foreign student of ISTEC is that they cannot understand. That's why they just find it difficult to attend the lecture series. So then we decided with Prof to have the lecture today in English. Hopefully it can open up a new horizon to the foreign students about the Malay thought, Malay culture, and how the Malay mind in the past developed and made decisions on many matters. The lecture this morning is planned for 1.5 hours. The first hour is for the lecturer to give his lectures, and the following half an hour is for question and answers session. And we also hope that any question should be written in the chat box so that later I can read for the benefit of our lecturer. The topic for the session today is actually very interesting. It is a topic on the famous Malay manuscript that has been included in the UNESCO Memory of the World Register in 2001. It was not easy to be included in the register. First of all, the title must be very important to the community. And secondly, it must have great influence on other Malay manuscripts. And the person who initiated the idea of submission of the Hikayat Hang Tuah manuscript to UNESCO to be included in the UNESCO Register of World Heritage was none other than our speaker today, who was then holding the post of Chair of Malay Studies at University of Leiden in the Netherlands. Prof submitted the idea and draft of the argument to the National Library of Malaysia in 1999, and thereon, National Library took the case with UNESCO. And in 2001, the manuscript was registered with UNESCO. The topic for the lecture today is the controversial Hang Tuah and the Hikayat, to be delivered by our eminent Professor Muhammad Haji Salleh our invited speaker for the session today. And a little bit about the speaker. Prof. Muhammad Haji Salleh completed his PhD at University Malaya, Singapore in English Studies. He worked as academician in various universities, both in Malaysia and overseas, but the longest was with UKM and USM. He was promoted as professor at the young age of 36. He was awarded the National Literary Award in 1991, the C Writers Award in 1997, and named the National Academic Leader in 2008. He was the president of Malaysian Interpretations Society, Translation Society, 1978 to 1982, and on board of organizations and journals like Dewan Bahasa and Pustaka and Jurnal Negara. He was a very active writer. So far, I came to understand that our prof has published 99 books so far, and on the way to finish writing the 100th book very soon. Yeah. The coverage of his writing were wide, ranging from poems, translations, and studies on Malay literature. Even relating to Hang Tuah, the topic for today's talk, he has written a few books. That's some information about the topic and also the speaker. And now I would like to invite Prof. Muhammad Haji Salleh, the speaker for today, to deliver his talk on the topic of the controversial Hang Tuah and the Hikayat. Now I pass over to you, Prof, for deliberation.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Mr. Chairman, Dr. Wan, ladies and gentlemen. Dr. Wan says I'm supposed to talk for 1 hour and I'll be questioned another half an hour. But I must say your steps here are very high. I'm quite breathless. So I'll just talk about 15 minutes, yeah?
Okay.
Man, do you have steps? Okay. The next one is that I am a student of English literature. When I came back to Malaysia, I found this great literature, this garden of beauty, garden of ideas, and garden of talents that I've not found before, because the English didn't teach us that we were any good. We were only good as servants. But then I came back, I found for myself these great literary works, which some people have found, but I have found further through my understanding of contemporary literature, comparative literature, these great talents. So I started reading, and then I translated the Hikayat Hang Tuah that I call, what did I call it? What did I call it? The Epic of Hang Tuah. It's quite a big book and quite nicely done. We try to follow the tradition of the old manuscripts with illustrations. My God, it's tall, it's hard, and it is heavy. Yeah, we use some of the columns, yeah, and the illustrations taken from the old manuscripts that took from the Muslim manuscripts. And because Hang Tuah is a traveler, so we have done a journey of his in the archipelago and also around the world. But that one can be said later. But what I want to say is that for those who don't know Hang Tuah, he is one of the greatest heroes and thinker in some ways of the Malay peoples of Southeast Asia. And he is known in Sri Lanka because there's some Malays there. He's also known in South Africa, and he is very much known in Java and some of the islands to the east of Indonesia. So he's quite well known. And the controversy about him is still on, very much giving us problems and giving us new thoughts, new interpretations. Why not? After all, he's our own, and we must always interpret him according to our times, according to our contemporary ideas, see what we can take from him. And that's how it is with me. May I ask you, especially the Malaysian, who has read the Malay version of Hikayat Hang Tuah? Satu. Ya, Datuk, ya. The young people, no, not really, ya. Dua, ya. Dua, tiga, empat, ya. Empat orang. Four, yeah. This is the situation now. They don't give time to literature because they think only technology is good. We are supposed to become computers and not human beings. And I'm very much against this. A good Madani person has both, yeah, the literary, the artistic, the intellectual, and also the scientific. You just can't push away the literary things to the side. No great people, no great civilization would push aside the thoughts, the ideas of the past, and the great imagination of the past. And at the moment, we have been doing it for some time. You will notice that France doesn't push aside their great thinkers, nor the great writers. They imbibe in them and spread the word about them because they're good and they learn from this thing and they give certain pride to the people. Okay. And the sad thing is that in Malaysia, literature has been pushed aside for many years now by ministers who don't know much about literature or culture or the idea of a good state. But I want to say that there are few great works of geniuses in Malay literature. One is the Sulalatus Sulatin, Genealogy of Kings, that I happen to translate into English, my English, called Genealogy of Kings, published 2 years ago. And I've also translated the Hikayat Hang Tuah as the the Epic of Hang Tuah, quite a big book. And I used to tell this to my listeners. It's about 500 pages. It is. You can, Dewan Bahasa and Karya Agong. Karya Agong, yeah, Karya Agong. Yeah. So when I started it, these 500 pages, I was tall, dark, and handsome. After 15 years, I was shorter, I was paler, but still quite handsome. It took a long time. Some work of my youth and my older age, but I feel that we have to do something about our good books, yeah, not written amongst them. As you notice that even in schools, people don't know this great work. So most of our Malaysians, they would watch the film, yeah, Cerita Hang Tuah, yeah, Hang Tuah. It's also I mean, a light interpretation of the story. Or this comics, huh? Lagi apa? Ada TV, yeah, TV, yeah, cartoon, yeah, that's yeah. So it's come to that. The beauty of the language, beauty of the ideas get lost. So thank you, Dr. Wan, for letting me speak about one of the great works of our literature for our Malaysian and also our international audience. So Hang Tuah, after 500 pages, tends to follow you home. You read it in the library, it follows you home. You go to America like me, it follows me to America. And when I go to Indonesia too. And interestingly, many people claim to be descended from Hang Tuah. I think I'm also descended. I think I'm also descended from Hang Tuah. But the idea is that the Sultan of Delhi, thinks that Hang Tuah is one of his ancestors. And interestingly also, I don't know how it works out, Sultan Hamengkubuwono, the present Sultan of Jogja, thinks that one of his ancestors is Hang Tuah too. So if they can claim that, I too can claim because I translate the Hang Tuah. Yeah. Okay. But anyway, this is the greatest book. And there are two works of geniuses that I consider to be the best among the Malay literary works. The Hikayat Hang Tuah and the Sulalatu Salatin that I mentioned just now. It's kind of history of the Malay archipelago, how people think, how people work out to get their power, how people work out to get their country, their negeri popular and also in good good repair and moving. So there are many things we learn from the first Sulalatu Salatin. Much we can learn from it. And this is a work of, there's humor, I said, there's love relationship, there's talk about the sultans and how they gain power, and many, many other things. Wonderful. In one book is collected the many, many things that we would like to know, that the writer would like to relay to his anak cucu kita, untuk anak cucu kita. This book was written for the generations after me, for my children, for my grandchildren, and so on. So this is the idea of literature also. It doesn't stay with one person, but it's supposed to be spread out. Why not? Because good ideas don't come or grow out of the earth, grow out of one generation. It grows out of many generations. And from this many generations, you collect the best ones. Okay. So we are talking about the Hikayat Hang Tuah, one of the best ones. This work was written a little later, not during the time of Malacca, not the time of Malacca, but it was composed very much orally. And it seems that people all around the archipelago talk about him, compose episodes about him. And one time, somebody, which is not mentioned here, collated all the stories, joined them, smoothened the joints, and this becomes the Hikayat Hang Tuah. Okay. Hang Tuah is supposed to be born in Sungai Duyung. Our friend in Malacca will be very, very proud of the Sungai Duyung. But I would like to say there are 3 Sungai Duyungs in the archipelago. One in Malacca, the other one is in Singkep, and the other one still in Terengganu. Yeah, Terengganu. And the Sungai Duyung that we are talking about is in Singkep, a small island in the Riau archipelago to the southwest of Singapore. Small one. And interestingly, he is from the Orang Laut, the sea people, the Malay sea people of that area. And in those days, the sea peoples were very important because they were the first line of protection, first line of defense when there is an attack on Malacca. And these people were also very important in Palembang, when Palembang was a great empire. Orang Laut, they are called. Orang Laut, yeah? Orang Laut. And this Sungai Duyung, I've been there, I went there because I'm always in search of Hang Tuah. So I went there, quite difficult to get there. You must use small boats. And when you get there, there's a little village, very muddy, because the Sungai Duyung is very muddy, and we have a lot of mangroves. Yeah, and there's not much source of how to say life there. You can get much to eat, except for the fishes and the crabs. They have a lot of crabs there, and so Hang Tuah's father thought, let's go somewhere where we can earn our living, where we can get a little more money than we are getting. So in a boat with his mother and your father, they went to Bentan. Bentan is southwest of Singapore and not far from Singapore, really. It's a nice place. Yeah. So he went there, parked his boat there, climbed up, and went to the Bendahara, the prime minister, asking for a little place to have his house. And this was given him. And he also started little warung, little stall for his cakes. So that's how the mother and Hang Tuah and the wife earned the living for some time. And Hang Tuah grew up in a better place than in Singkep, which there was not much of social interaction. They might be among themselves, but very, very little. When he went over to Bentan, this was a state. There was a sultan. There was a bendahara. Bendahara is a prime minister who was quite powerful. So that's where he went. And when he grew up, he met other people. And that's how he met the 4 important friends of his. He is Hang Tuah. There's the other one, Hang Jebat, Hang Kasturi, Hang Lekir, hung the queue for friends who became a little group that was very close to each other. And it was told that in the stories that at one time they were playing in the islands when they met some Lanuns, pirates. And interestingly, although they were quite young, but with Hang Tuah leading the group, they could defeat the pirates at that time. So this was the beginning. And he was noticed by the prime minister, and the prime minister introduced him into the court, and he became quite well known in the court itself as he grew up in the place. So that was his beginning. After some time, after many times, the country also became, how to say, divided. And he went over to Singapore and then on to Malacca. He went to Malacca. That time, Malacca was already a state with an administration that you could trust. After being known in Bentan, he went over there. He also became well known. And many were the tasks given him by the Sultan to be completed, which other people couldn't complete. But the most important was that he became an ambassador. Let me say, I forgot that. When he grew up, he knew 11 languages. Is anybody from the Department of Linguistics here? Yeah, I always was also thinking this must be a lot of imagination on the part of the writer. But people who know many languages do exist, yeah? Now you hear them, even children. I was 6 years old, know 3 or 4 languages. So it's not something unbelievable that Hang Tuah knew 11 languages. But this is the idea of the writer. In Malacca, which had 64 ethnic groups, 11 languages is nothing. So he did pick up some languages from the people of Malacca, and in the end knew 11 languages. Therefore, he's a good, calon, lupa bahasa Inggris, yeah, candidate for a duta, for what? For ambassador. So he was sent to Thailand as an ambassador. He went over to China as an ambassador. He went also to Kalinga, mostly I think the Tamil side of India, as ambassador. Then he was sent over to what was called Rome in those days, Constantinople, Negeri Rome. Yeah, Negeri Rome was no longer Rome at the time, but was Constantinople. And interestingly, the description of Constantinople was quite good, quite close to the truth. Came in with the hill and the castle, and then on to the Bosphorus, and then to the other parts. So he was there. And before he came to Rome, he passed by Masir, yeah, Egypt. There he collected some weapons to be taken back because the Portuguese were having plans for Malacca. And he was sent there, sorry, I should have said, sent there to collect weapons to fight the possible attack by the Portuguese. So that was his route. Came back to Malacca. So about five or six countries, yeah. I was joking with my friends too. I want to go to more countries than Hang Tuah. So I tried very hard, and I only got 71 countries. Never mind, that's a joke. But I do. Why not? I mean, the world belongs to us, and we should say it, not to conquer it, but to get the big ideas, to see how people solve problems and how the civilizations work. And I do. I've been a traveler many years, and I've covered that many cultures and many countries. And this is because I also might have the influence of stories like Hang Tuah. One must travel, must see the world, and then the world comes to you. And when the world comes to you, you can share it with your countrymen. So that's what Hang Tuah has been doing. And in the offing was the calumny, fitnah, yeah, that he was having some affairs with the Sultan's bidadari, the Sultan's maids in waiting, yeah, maid in waiting. So this was calumny by people who thought he was casting too much, too many praises, and being liked too much by the Sultan, but not the others. So that's one. So the Sultan, without questioning very much, without investigating, asked the Bendahara to put Hang Tuah to death, sentence him to death. But the Bendahara thought this could not be true, so he sent him to an island. There he was for some years until the Sultan had another problem. The friend of Hang Tuah, Hang Jebat, was rebelling against the Sultan. One, for being unjust to his friend Hang Tuah. And he took over the palace. And he took over all the girls of the palace too. And so therefore there was quite a rebellion. And the Sultan, not knowing what to do, said to the Bendahara, if only Hang Tuah was around. And the Bendahara said, Your Majesty, forgive me, I did not send him to death. I sent him to an island. If you want him, I will ask him to come back. So he came back. This time reinstated, and sadly, Hang Jebat has rebelled against the Sultan, and Hang Tuah is a defender of the sultanship, of the rajahship. So there was this clash. One, the rebellion, sadly, the rebellion against the Sultan, who has been unjust, and now also that this rebel was his friend too, and he had to act. And in the Malay idea of things is that the Sultan is everything. So came back, went over to the palace, and said to Hang Tuah to surrender. Hang Tuah said, I shouldn't. I was doing it for you. Yeah? And so they had a duel. this is interesting because there were many supporters of Hang Tuah and also some supporters of Hang Jebat. And you can't have a duel in the Malay palace made of wood because wood has these little spaces in between. And the supporters of both sides would be, how to say, putting in the end of the spears and therefore hurting the people who were fighting. But anyway, after a long duel, Hang Jebat was hurt. I think in the tummy. It's not clear where. Ada orang tahu di mana dia tikam Hang Tuah? Tahu, tak tahu. Tak tahu ya. Okey, nanti kita pergi tengok ya dia punya jenazah. Okay, so he was hurt, and interestingly, okay, that also when he was hurt, he ran amok, killing a lot of people. So says the story. And when he thought he was dying, he came to Hang Tuah's house, asking for some food. And after some time, Hang Tuah returned to the house and saw Hang Jebat there. And he took Hang Jebat's head in his lap, and Hang Jebat died in his lap. See, the intricacy of friendship, rebellion, the idea of support for the Sultan, and the friendship. Yeah, how does one unravel this idea? And they say that Hang Jebat is the enemy and Hang Tuah is the hero. Now it's still unsolved. But I want to solve it by saying that Hang Tuah is a symbol of the Malays. But Hang Jebat also is a symbol of the Malays. That the author put them together and in the end brought them together again when he was dying was really amazing. So the Malays are both the loyal people and also the rebel with a cause, not just killing people. Yeah, he had a cause, and the idea of the undoing of the Rajaship, the undoing of the administration was on the mind of the Malays all the time. Malays who were very, very subservient to their Sultan, but there was also in the mind of the Malays sometimes, like in Hang Tuah, who was twice sent away, yeah, to islands for calumny, for things that are not true. So there was always this idea of rebellion. So if you want to define a Malay, it's both the loyal servant, the loyal person, but also the rebel. And I like that. We must rebel when we should. We must be thinking people. And to move forward, we must also include ideas that don't agree with the present people. So the Hikayat is one of the greatest gems. Boleh, where is the mana sini? Okay, lagi. Lagi. Yang kedua, yang kedua. Next one. Okay, okay. And next one, belum juga. Belum ni. Okay, okay. Okay, thank you. I am I come from an ancient, Boleh, besarkan sikit. Too small. Sejam ya. Oh, nak sejam. Sejam ya. Terus lagi. Lagi. Okey, ini boleh. Tapi nak besar. Tidak nak. So I ya macam-macam lah sekarang ni. In Kajang we don't have all these things. We only have satay and the lidi and the stick. Okay, so what I'm trying to say, Hang Tuah is a culture hero, not only hero, a culture hero without compare in Malay literature and even beyond. So it's known in Javanese literature, and I was saying some other literatures of some other countries that are related to the Malay. Okay, for more than 500 years, he has been present in oral words, pages of the hikayat, traditional theater, poetry, comics, critical discourses, for he combines Malaysian ideas as well as those of other readers in the Malay world and beyond. And when we were children, we'd play, we'd take sticks and have a little duel with our friends. And some would be Hang Tuah, and some would be Hang Jebat, some Orang Jahat. Yeah, okay. Hang Tuah is described as a man of a bigger world than just of Malacca. He was able to converse many languages, as I said, possessing a knowledge of many cultures. So therefore, when he was sent to China, it was easy for him. He could go to the palace and talk to the administrators of the palace officials and get in easily to the country. On the other hand, he was also extremely courteous and refined in his diplomatic mission. A man who represented Malacca in a most professional and eloquent way. So I think he was reading a lot of literature too, not just the technology of the past. Yeah? It's a man who knew a lot of things, and he could receive this and assess them for the good, how do you say, lessons. Okay, yang tu lepas tu kita tekan apa? Up here, down. Okay, so I said something about this. That's the Hang Tuah And his boat was called Mendam Brahi. Interesting, Mendam Brahi. Brahi is sexual desire. That's why he went very far. Mendam to harbor, to harbor sexual desire. But Hang Tuah was not very sexy. He did not go like the Hang Jebat. He didn't have many girlfriends. And he was accused of having a relationship with the Sultan's girl, but he was never so. Had one wife, was their son. There was a son, but not mentioned further in the Hikayat. So he went to Sri Lanka, he went to Thailand, and China, Japan, Kalinga, Arabia, mostly to Mecca. And interesting in Mecca, well, he was in Mecca in one of the smaller hills and mountains. They came to him, somebody, and that man said to him, could you lend me a dinar? He said, okay, you take two. Huh? He gave 2 dinars. And he said, okay, I'm not really a person who begs for money. I am Nabi Khidir. Nabi Khidir. And interestingly, Nabi Khidir said, if you want to go away to another country and not know the language, take this cup and put some water and drink, and you will know the language of that country. So you don't need Department of Languages here in the universities. Who's in any Department of Languages here? Tak payah, tak perlu. Huh? Tanya Nabi Khidir aja. Nabi Khidir was a good guy. He gives a lot of things. In Malay literature, a lot of things. The good things, yeah. Okay? That was how the boat was in those days. And it was said that even China used to, ask Malacca to make boats. And the boats are longer than the Japanese ones. And it was, something that you can believe, because we are a maritime people, even now. And look at the Sulawesi people and the Filipinos and the Papuans too were maritime people. And I think the Malays know a lot of things about the sea, including being pirates and including being administrators of countries on the land side of the sea. We had an ocean ourselves. Yeah, only the China is renaming it into South China Sea. It was not their sea; it was our sea. Let's change it back. Yeah, the Malay Sea. It used to be called the Malay Sea, but then I think it was the English who called it South China. China is no longer around the area. We were further up, yeah, and China was very much higher up. So this little seminar would propose to the government of the Southeast Asia to rename the ocean as the Malay Sea. Okay. Okay, what else could I say? Bawah ya, bawah ke atas? Bawah. Okay. So those were the countries that he went to. Yeah, said Keling, Sri Lanka, lalu dekat Yemen, pergi ke Mekah, ke Jeddah, ke Egypt, and right on to Istanbul. That is called Rome. Can you see that? It's very slight, yeah, very slight. So that was it. I am now, after transcribing what am I transcribing? The Hikayat Hang Tuah. I've transcribed again the oldest text of Hikayat Hang Tuah, and being so influenced by it, I'm writing about 100 poems about Hang Tuah and his travel. So I'll imagine what he would think of when he's traveling around. Perhaps he was thinking of some durians, yeah, some langsat and so on. Why not? Yeah, I mean, he's a human being, yeah. Tak sedap lah. I mean, while pomegranate would be nice, I don't think he would think that orange is nice. Durian is better, yeah. But otherwise, I'll be talking about interactions between people, languages, and so on. So 100 poems now, all in draft form. I hope perhaps next year I get some of them reworked and year after that to publish. Because there's so many things being said in the manuscript and in the hikayat that get me to think about his travels, his character, his values, and the culture of the times. Okay. Sorry lah. Okay. I mentioned this about him and Malacca and orang Malacca. Yeah, I went to the Sungai Duyung Museum. Did you? Did you get to the Sungai Duyung? Yeah. Okay. It is really big. In the real Sungai Duyung, there's nothing. There's only the well. The well. Dah pernah pergi? Ya, dah pernah ya. Sungai Duyung di Singkep. Oh, Singkep. Di sini. So, Singkep. So, only the well is left. So, you can go too. Only it's difficult. They said if you take a bath of the water, you will get, your body will get young again. I did not have time, so I put it over my face, so I'm quite young. But the other parts are all getting old, really old. Yeah. Tapi it's interesting, the idea that you get young, and also I think you can ask for a wife or for a girlfriend from that well. I don't know how this has to do with Hang Tuah, but Hang Tuah is a good man when he helps people in these matters of life and death, yeah, and so on and so on. So, okay, this one I've okay. So he's a superhero, not only hero, a superhero in our culture. So he's been better, stronger, braver, and wiser than his comrades. And in fact, all the warriors and officers of Malacca, Java, and India. Okay. And Hikayat Hang Tuah in another genre. Okay. And we make poems about Hang Tuah. So I have poems for Hang Tuah now, 100 over. Zurina Hassan, some poem. We have comic Hang Tuah, no longer found now, yeah? Not so often, yeah? Ada many years ago, which is a shame, yeah? And I don't know whether they have this, what do you call this? Videos, yeah? Of Hang Tuah, do they? No, yeah, which is a shame, yeah? Younger people are, my grandson grows with Batman or Superman, yeah? So he dreams about this, and not dream of Cat Hang Tua. What shall I do? Please advise me later in the discussion. Okay. Ada komik Hang Tua di Air Masin. Hang Tua in the Hang Tua in the Seas, authored by Ahmad Bakhtiar and K. Bali. Semua dah meninggal ya. Hang Tua menderhaka. Ya. Hang Jebat menderhaka. This was the rebellion of Hang Jebat. And matinya seorang pahlawan. So these were works in support of Hang Jebat and his rebellion. And there's a film, 1956, my God, it was a long time ago, P. Ramlee and Hang Jebat 61. Hang Jebat 61 was one of the best movies for a long time, yeah. Okay, so these are the images. And the craze, of course. So the comics, the film, and at the bottom there is Hang Tua, P. Ramlee, and Sadia, is it? Sadia, yeah. Sadia. I used to know Sadia's husband, who came to my room, which I shared with his anak saudara, with this anak saudara, lelaki, nephew. So we did go one time to Sadia's house. Well, stories, yeah. Tak apa ya. When you got old, that's what you do. You try to bring up all the old times. And these are the hikayats in other publications. Yeah, in other publications. There's the Qasim Ahmad was taken from the Dewan Bahasa Manuscript Library, and Hikayat Hang Tua was from the Pusaka Negara, which Dr. Wan was involved, I'm sure, yeah. And then Ahmad Adam, who found a manuscript in Russia. And he said he thinks that it is not Hikayat Hang Tua, tapi Hikayat Hang Tua, Tawawha. Well, I have other ideas about this. I don't think you would name your son as Tuha, yeah? You Tua, luck, yeah? Tapi tak apalah, Mak Adam selalu begitu. Okay, and this is mine. The oldest Hikayat Hang Tua text taken from Leiden, 1758. This is the oldest, the others are quite new. They're on Bahasa, it's quite new too. And this is the oldest I found in Leiden. And I finished transcribing it. It is being published, and I hope to get it out soon. Oh, it should be a work of pride, yeah? A work of pride, why not? Okay. I have written something about Hang Tua too. I sought for him. So I wrote a book seeking Hang Tua. And there I described my journey to the Singkep Island, to Dabo, and to Sungai Duyung. Duyung is what in English? Yeah? Mermaid, yeah. It seems that mermaids like to come to the Malay rivers. Came to the Malacca River and also to the Singkep River. Okay. And it's my transcription. Okay, so it has been out in movies, stage plays. short stories or novels, comics, and poems. No other work of ours have been recast in other genre, other forms. Okay, that should be all, and it's 12 o'clock. Okay, yeah, and then okay, at the beginning, apa ada lagi ya, tak apalah. And I wrote about poems, some poems about Hang Tuah, about power and so on. And sekian, terima kasih. Thank you all. Yeah. I would have talked longer if I didn't have to climb up the steps of Istek. I was breathless.
I brought a Prof just now to the canteen and to the library, and that's him a lot, I think. Okay. Thank you very much, Prof. Muhammad Haji Salleh, for the very excellent explanation about the important text of Hikayat Hang Tuah, in which he has written a few books. And not only he transliterate them into Roman, but also he translate them into English, right? And Prof also explain about the storyline of the manuscript from the time he was born, and he traveled from Singket up to Malacca, and his overseas travel to many parts of the world. I think due to certain time constraint, Prof was not able to explain very much more.
And so having to walk up the steps.
Yes.
Sorry.
To walk up the steps, yes. But at least it is a glimpse of the story of Hikayat Hang Tuah, the Malay hero, which embodied the mind or the thinking of the Malays in the past. That I feel that when we read a story book like Hikayat Hang Tuah, sometimes we have to be very we have to be able to understand the meaning behind the lines. For example, Prof was saying that he traveled to many places in the world. I suspect that it might be true, because you see, when the Portuguese came to Malacca in 1511, he abducted a Malay person by what we call by the name of Panglima Awang. He abducted that young man and bring back to Lisbon, Portugal, and bring him all the way back to the Philippines, because it was
Magellan.
Oh, Magellan.
With Magellan.
Because why he was important is that he knows how to read the waves, the seas, and the stars. That means he knows what time to stop, what time to travel for the safety of the fleet. And another is that Malacca at that time was a center of trading activity in this part of the world. So many people were can be found in Malacca then. That means he knows there's a possibility that he knows more than 10 languages. Huh? So I'm trying to think on the possibility that Hank was actually a person who embodied the thinking of the Malays, that they were in the past was bigger than what we understand it as told in the textbooks written by Europeans. And another is that the duel between Hang Tuah and Hang Jebat, his best friend. There's another point of the possibility of understanding the Malay mind in the past, that you had to be very obedient to your ruler or to your king. But of course, although you are obedient, but you also have certain has to show that you have certain opinion if the king did something wrong. So I think that's just one or 2 points that we can ponder about the Malay mind in the past. And there were many, many more that we can think of in the storyline. And I think that's my short wrap up of the lecture, Prof. And now we come to the question and answers session. Before I give to the others, I would like to mention that I would like to ask Prof. Is Hang Tuah is real as a person, or is an imagination?
I know that question will come up. That's what I was searching around in the archipelago. That at least 2 great kingdoms claimed him. I think there is some truth to his existence. That there is a village called Sungai Duyung is also an evidence that he lived and that he survived in the minds of the Southeast Asian people for so long is an evidence that he lived. But then the story is, how to say, is padded with myths and beliefs and so on. But at the core is Hang Tuah, who has done some of these things. Now people are trying to work out whether he was a Chinese Hang, for some time. This was done about 10 years ago. Yeah, the belief that he was Chinese. I don't care. You can have it. You can have it because we all share him. It's good that the Chinese are thinking he was Chinese too. But as I search this guy, I know he's Orang Laut, the Malays who live by the sea and knew much about the sea. It makes sense. He used to travel around, play around with his friends in the seas in Riau. Then he went up to Singapore and Bintan, Singapore, and Malacca. So is that route? It's not Malacca down. Diceritakan di sekitar Riau. So not Malacca down, but from Singkep up to Malacca. So this Sungai Duyung Malacca is the unreal one. And then as I notice it, the facts are not so very clear, not so very accurate in the Sungai Duyung. They have a nice museum there. The building is beautiful. But the information, I think, is not that accurate, and it's not enough too. So go and look at the nice buildings and the aura of the myths. Because if you go to Singkep, you can see all this. But in Malacca, you can see one of the manuscripts and so on. So I think he existed, but not in the form of the hikayat. Smaller person, less knowledge perhaps, but he must be a traveler. He must be a duta, and he must be a warrior too. And you can find this in the text itself. Yeah? The facts plus myths and stories and claims. Therefore, I also claim to be a descendant of Hang Tuah because I translated his book. I translated his kaya. Yeah. Itulah, yeah, some little comment.
This an inquiry here. That Hyderabad and Hang Tuah were very good friends. Then Hang Tuah killed Hyderabad. What is the message that Prof can interpret? Why he killed his best friend? As though he don't have what the friendship feeling.
Okay. The Sultan was more important than the friend. And the friend, said to say, killed a lot of people. When he was stabbed by Hang Tuah, he killed a lot of people. Yeah. So that's the reason. And as I said, the Sultan is higher than a friend. But in the end, even though they quarrel, they kill each other, in the end, he came to his house, lay on his lap, and died. So it's wonderful. I'm not a person who weeps often, but when I read that, I want a few drops of tears did flow down my cheeks. Beautiful story, very sad, very tragic. How can two friends so close with each other, as Dr. was saying, Dr. Wan was saying, you can come to kill each other? Hang Tuah believes in the idea of kingship and sultan has daulat. Yeah, daulat is aura of the official authority of power and so on, and that you shouldn't go against him. And Hang Tuah must be killed because he goes against this power, and this power is given to the Sultan by God. Yeah, yeah, ceritanya, yeah. Okay, so therefore he has to do it. He didn't want to do it, but he had to do it. And Hang Jebat was rebelling because the Sultan was unjust, killed his, throughout, his friend, and he was kind of him. So it's very complicated. It's very complicated. And what happened was that in the end, the story is bloody and a lot of tears in it. And because it's so well done, so complicated, you can make stories even up to now. And I am a poet. I can't help but feel the tragedy, the sadness, and the glory of those days. So I'm making up my own poems based on the hikayat, which I translated, which made me old, made me shorter, and still handsome.
I have another question here, but before that, I would like to open it to the audience. Any question? Yes, brother.
Yeah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Yeah. I'm called Adam Musa.
Adam Musa, yes.
Yeah. My question is, I'm looking at international relations. Since you talked of I'm taking the diplomatic aspect of him, especially South Africa, you know. I wonder if Hang Tuah had a close relationship with Tuan Guru.
Tuan Guru.
Yeah, because they formed the basis of the Malaysian community in South Africa. In South Africa.
Tuan Guru, yes.
More so in Cape Town. And as we talk today, there is a very productive community of the Malaysian descendants in South Africa. So could there be a possibility that they had a collaboration? Because for Tuan Guru, for him, it was more like a rebel against the Portuguese. And they had to take him to the Robben Islands. So is there any relationship diplomatically between these two people from Southeast Asia?
Are you from South Africa?
No, I'm from East Africa, Uganda.
East Africa, Uganda, yeah. Hang Tuah came to the Red Sea, going up to Mecca, become the African state that he went and stopped by was Mesir. Was it? I think South Africa is a little to the south. And then also the South African Malays came what? In the 18th century? 18th century, perhaps, yeah? They were taken from Indonesia to work in South Africa, or they were prisoners, yeah, sent there. So there's many years in between, yeah, many years in between the South African Malays and the Malaccan Malays. And we didn't touch ground much. They didn't touch ground much, and they lived separate life. Well, with 500 years in between, so not so much. Yeah.
Why I asked the question is that you made a reference on South Africa. In your presentation earlier, there is where you touched on South Africa, and that's why I had to bring that context.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
I forgot what I said.
The presence of Malays.
Oh, presence of Malays, yeah, and language. So the presence of Malays is quite widespread, yeah. That's what I was trying to say. And they are in many states, including South Africa, who the people were brought there by the Dutch, yeah, and they kept their race and language and religion. They are mostly Buginese and some Javanese. But interestingly, there's also a little state in mid America also speaking and are Muslims because of the spread of the Malays here. So not really in this context, not really relationship between the Africans and the Malays of Hang Tuah. He went to Mesir, Egypt, so that's where he touched the African continent. Yeah. Not more than that, I think. Yeah. Okay, so
Question? From Turkey,
okay,
but also a lecturer here
okay, yes.
on Ottoman.
Oh, yes, he came. Yeah, he came there.
Assalamualaikum. Prof, thank you very much for your kind presentation of Hang Tuah. Since beginning, we have been told this story, either in a mythological way or in a reality. Some of us over here foreigners, and mostly our students are alien to this field regarding to Malay world and Ottoman relationships. So when we discourse any kind of narration pertaining to this Malay world and the Ottoman relations, I guess we need to input some other things. But because of time restrictions, so on, you just briefly explain to us. But this is a sort of danger for our academic scientific understanding of relationships. Brother Musa mentioned that regarding to this international relationship aspects and some other things. So at the end of the day, this figure, Hang Tuah and some others, need to understand in their own context. Let's say a literary work, a legendary figure, folkloric individual, many things. So I do not decline the importance in social science. These historical figures contribute us to understand the past relationships, at least a culture, the mindset, Weltanschauung, as Weberian sense, worldview. This is very important. But at the same time, we should be careful because, at least in my own part, let's say Turkey, they are alien to this geography. When they hear something, they got something, surprisingly, they feel a sort of superior complex. This is very common. So we should not allow the people to feel sort of things, looking at this unproved data or unproved narration. Second point is that Hang Tuah is not alone over here. There are some other figures, let's say starting from Aceh and Sumatra until Java. There are some other narrations. Let's say you mentioned the Hang Tuah books and the Sulalatul Salatin. There is Bustan Salatin. There is Hikayat Aceh. There is Hikayat Raja Pasai, Babats in Java. I guess it will be nice in the academic environment over here. We should have comparative studies, comparative understanding all these manuscripts to have a structure of the Malay mindset. And this another point is, I guess, I'm sorry, my question probably comes soon. The Malay probably, again, Turkish people misunderstand this concept. Malay is not Malaysia. Malay is a concept, anthropological and sociological background. As Musa mentioned, till South Africa, you can find and trace this cultural, anthropological, sociological backgrounds of people. So these are my points. Question is that you mentioned this is latest, the oldest manuscript you found out in Leiden, 1758. Are there any notes, introduction or commentary in this manuscript, or attached to it what the British or the Dutch, whoever brought this book from Malaya to Western Europe, Are there any explanations? Thank you very much.
Sadly, there's no explanation. There's only the text. Yeah, often you don't have notes attached to the book itself. This is how it is for Malay manuscripts. And so we have to work it out ourselves. And I was so happy to see this earliest version. And the earliest version brought us the oldest Malay language of the text itself. Of course, the later one, you have language that is, how to say, also included new terms, new music of the language itself. And as I read it and transcribe it and also translate it, I hear the older music of the text itself. So sorry, there is no introduction. But to answer your comment on this Malays, yeah, of course, Malays, as we even now believe that are not only the Malays of Malaysia, we were Nusantara people. We were Malaccans in those days. Yeah? We were Srivijaya, that's the older empire, and also the Javanese. All these people we consider as Malays, although the Javanese won't want to be Malays. Only in Malaysia they want to be Malays so that they can get a citizenship. Okay, that's another matter. But I do know that we need to talk about among ourselves as people who are Muslims and how we share our culture to the Malays through the Acehnese. We think the Turkish were one of the greatest powers in those days. If you want to fight the Dutch, you must go to Turkey to get the weapons. The Turkish keep the weapons and build the weapons. So that's what Hang Tuah was doing. He was asked by his Raja to go and get the weapons in Turkey. But he stopped also in Egypt and got some weapons there, went over to Bosporus, to what was Rome, we call Rome, was at the eastern post of the empire then, which later became Constantinople, which later became Istanbul. So that's where he went. And there was this relationship between Malacca and Istanbul, Rome, that we were part of the people of Islam, and we can depend on each other. And of course, Rome was very much bigger than Malacca, but Malacca also had its own experience of being a great power, of sharing things around in Southeast Asia. So there was this feeling of awe towards of Rome itself, and it was good. And from time to time, people get there, like Hang Tuah and Muhammad, who went also to Istanbul a few times. Me, Salleh, yeah, why not? It's part of us. I think I'm this arrogant fellow who feels that Istanbul is also part of my culture, part of my world. So I should learn of things there are in it. And I said, I traveled to about 70 countries in the world. because I think they are part of me too. And I can enjoy Tahiti, although I don't dance the Tahiti dance. I go to Hawaii, Maui, and I go to Mexico. I go to Peru. I go to China. These are wonderful.
Our sister from Peru.
Peru, are you? Oh, I like that very much. Okay, so wonderful civilization. The English says they are the only great civilization of the world. And their Stonehenge is what? A great creation. Then I went to Peru, and I feel that the Stonehenge is old blocks of stone, not well arranged. It's falling apart. While the Peruvian castles and stonework are perhaps the best in the world. None that I've seen. I've been around many places, but Peru is number one for this. So what I'm saying is that I should be a humble person. I want to learn from the world. I have a right to learn from the world. And I'm a bigger and perhaps a better person if I learn from the world. So Hang Tuah, I think, believes in the same concept. He goes to China, but of course sent by the Sultan. Because China, India, and Turkey, and Mecca, I think, is stopped for his own spiritual experience. And that was the world of that time, yeah? That was the world of that time. England wasn't around. Spain, for him, wasn't around. So he went to the known world of those days, plus China, of course. And he went to Japan. He went to Japan and China. Japan and China. Okinawa was the country of those days. And Okinawa was Malay. Anthropologically, we are close and to Malays. And they are not Japanese by ethnic, how do you say? Elements, yeah. They were different people who came from the south. So there was no problem. And I think what the story was saying also, you come from a country, a world that is very wide, and we have one person, one hero who travels all this, and you should learn from it. Yeah. And are we learning from it? From Hang Tuah? I think I'm learning from it now. I don't have any more money. I've got to stop learning. But the idea that you must travel, yeah, to share the world, and the world can teach you a lot. I am a writer. I learn a lot from traveling. I read poems in Peru. I write poems in Tahiti. I write poems in Mexico, in Japan, like Dr. Wan. I was also 1 year in Japan. I taught in Leiden for 2 years. So these things come into yourself and it becomes part of you. Yeah. And I think Hang Tuah teaches that. You can relate to people and you can become a better person when you relate to people of all ethnic groups. In those days, these were the ethnic groups that were around.
I think because of time constraints, I will allow only and not just one Question. Any question? Dr. Yes.
Thank you very much for your presentation, and it's been great to see a person who has devoted himself to some of the cultural material of the Malay world, and is so proud of it and so passionate about it, which I find it wonderful. I have one question and one say comment. My question is that can you tell us, of course, it can be found in internet, but how many English translations of the Hantua is available? That's the question I have specifically. And my kind of elaboration, which I was inspired by your talk, is that when we get involved in details of a legendary hero and we want to evaluate it according to our present values, which are actually fragmented values. We don't see, as if we don't see humans as whole with all their faults and their positive beings at different stages in their lives, and we want to glorify a certain hero who why he did this that may be wrong, or we want to glorify him to be perfect. That's not happening. It has never happened. Even with the greatest people in the world, even when it comes to prophets, you see that God sometimes scolds them that, you should have done like that. It would have been better to do it like that. So if you understand that we are not perfect, that's one thing. And that if we have a culture that's valuable, it belongs to the whole of us. Actually, national identity, nation states are very new in the history of the world. When we claim that, whether this person belongs to this nation or that nation, if you go and study the history of that nation state, you'll see that, the time that the guy lived is hundreds, sometimes 1,000 years before this nation state existed. Therefore, we are kind of sometimes getting into certain struggles and fights and arguments over something which is not essential. Once the knowledge was one whole, now it's fragmented. And we are so specialized that in order to understand the other branch of knowledge, we have to tie strings to the other. Whereas it used to be one, humanity was one. If you say, like, in Persian epics, the hero Rustam, you have also the name here, the poet Ferdowsi says that the Rustam, of course, he was a Pahlawan, he was a hero of his time, but he was not such great. I made him so great. So, the greatness comes from our imagination and our, inspirations and all that. And I think, Hantua has been one of those. In fact, for a few years, I've been thinking to translate Hantua into Persian. Yes. And I'm now more inspired knowing you and the sources. Maybe if I have enough time, inshallah, I will attempt that. Thank you.
Thank you, Doctor. Thank you for your compliment. Two things here. Hantua is interpreted a few times in the modern Malaysian state even. At one time, my Qasim Ahmad was a socialist. He made Hang Jebat a socialist, fighting against the Sultan. So that was very clear. And for a long time, because he transcribed Hikayat Hang Tuah, so it was his idea of Hang Jebat that came through as a rebel. And as a socialist, he was rebelling against the Malaysian state at that time. Also, the idea of monarchy, which he didn't care for. So he was fighting for that. And it lasted for at least 20 years. Now, his socialist interpretation is being left behind, and not many people saw Hang Jebat as a socialist. But that he is a rebel, it stays in the mind of the Malays. That mind is full of Hang Tuah. So Hang Jebat has a little part of it. And because we don't read it anymore. And now with the AI, the new technologies, I don't know where they're going to put Hang Tuah. And people without an idea of heroism, of people fighting for the people, that is sad. I hope it doesn't happen. We must push that Hang Tuah be written to the school curriculum. It's good to have a hero. And this was a good hero. He didn't even think of himself. He didn't even stab at the Sultan for twice, condemning him to be killed. Good. So that's the question about interpreting Hang Tuah. The other one, is there any other translation of Hang Tuah? I think nobody would be crazy to translate 500 pages of the work, except this guy here. He's crazy enough. Yeah. So there's only one. Strange. I thought there would be the English people, you know, who were showing off their knowledge of the literature. They translated others, but not Hikayat Hang Tuah. Little too big, I think, here. Even for me, 15 years is not a short time, yeah. Not time. But I grew with Hang Tuah, and I feel sometimes I'm Hang Tuah too. But travel time, travel around the world, I learned from him. What you go?
Okay. Prof, at the very end of our session, suddenly it appeared to me, there is one small question still being asked to you.
Yes.
The question is, where is Chris Tamingsari now? Where is Chris Tamingsari now? In fact, there is one student doing PhD on Chris in this institute.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
The Hikayat doesn't say much about the Chris Tamingsari. Chris Tamingsari is this magical craze that was given to Hang Tuah in his duel with Hang Jebat. And only Chris Tamingsari can kill or overcome Hang Jebat. And after that, nothing is said until the Perak Sultanate claim that they have this Chris Tamingsari in the palace there. So there's much in between that we don't know, and there's this claim. Perhaps there are some other stories from some other states of the archipelago that claim the Chris, but now we only know the claim is with the Perak Sultanate. And I think you can see it there if you want. Itu saja yang saya tahu.
Okay. Okay. I think I'm close with the session. We have gone 20 minutes over the time, almost 1 o'clock now. We have come to the end of the lecture for today, and on behalf of staff, and I would like to express our appreciation and thank you for Muhammad Haji Salleh, who delivered the lecture today to all of us here. So I would like to mention, which I forget to mention earlier, that Prof. Muhammad Haji Salleh is Sasterawan Negara attached to IIUN University. Oh, sorry. Every Sasterawan Negara or national laureate will be attached to a university in Malaysia in order to promote humanities. Because we are becoming people with inhuman. So Prof is Sasterawan Negara attached to the IIUN University. So this lecture is actually a good event as for Sasterawan Negara at the university. So with that, I would like to end the lecture session today. And thank you very much to all who attended physically or online. And I think we had quite a good crowd today. And I end the session by reciting Wabillahi taufiq wal hidayah. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.